to another DorkLair action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the Mezco 112 Collective Solomon Kane. This is the second Robert E. Howard character that Mezco has done. The Conan the Barbarian figures they did are some of my all-time favorite Mezco figures. In fact, they are some of my all-time favorite action figures. So the bar is really high for the REH stuff coming from Mezco. Now, I'm not a huge Solomon Kane fan. I've read, a handful of stories, original REH stories, and then I've read some comics, Marvel comics and stuff with him. I'm not as into him as I am Conan, but it's a cool character and kind of a very similar character to Conan, but he's got a lot of cool weapons that he uses, and he's specialized in a lot of things. So this is a very sweet character, and my overall impressions of the figure itself are, of course you've got a ton of that pleather going on, which is always a concern, but aside from that, this thing's pretty awesome. It's got some really neat features. In fact, there are some improvements here in terms of storing weapons and stuff that I like much more than I do on the Conan figures. So some improvements, a lot of pleather, but overall, a solid figure. Let's get into this review. Okay, off the turntable, and we've got a nice close-up here. My light's kind of doing a weird thing on this side, shining through the hair. But there's a look at that head sculpt here, and I think it's pretty good. Sometimes it looks a little plasticky, but the sculpture is really good, and there is some nice details, especially in the eyes, where he's kind of got some redness around the eyes there, and he's got some really sharp features here, which I think match the character pretty well. He's got that furrowed brow with the wrinkles. And we have a few different head sculpts and a few different swap out hair pieces, but yeah, the hair looks really nice too. And we've got this leather trench coat duster type jacket here. I forget what it's called, but yeah, it's got some wires throughout. So this side has a wire over here, and then this side there's a wire, and it's got some really cool details. This isn't just a reused jacket from Blade or something like that. It's got these cool little button details down in here, and some nice texture there. It gives it that leather look, but really cool piece. And again, I'm always concerned when it comes to pleather, although I haven't really had flaking of my own. I guess I have decent atmosphere in my, my collection room, but I know some people have had issues. And his vest is also, a pleather material, removable with some Velcro right here. Some nice little button details. He's got a shoulder strap, sort of a bandolier type thing here. And one of the little improvements over Conan is that storing the weapons is a peg system rather than these little hook and chain things that Conan had. And tons of detail in that belt. Buckle here. And you have a sash right here. Also removable via Velcro. And then he does have cloth pants. It's kind of almost feels suede-like. I know it's not, but it kind of has that kind of suede texture to it right there. And then he's got some knife storage in these wonderful boots. Look at those. He's got kind of like a pilgrim vibe going on. So these are, buckles everywhere, pilgrimy kind of boots, slight pirate kind of look there. And yeah, just really nice stuff. This figure looks beautiful. Beautiful looking figure right here. And then here's Solomon Kane in a neutral pose, zoomed out so you can get an overall look of the silhouette of the figure, the proportions, and all that. Of course, the jacket kind of feels a little bulky, but you can mess around with it. All those wires, it helps for posing, and you can get it to look fairly snug and tight. There's just a lot there. There's a lot of layers of that pleather material, so it can get a little bulky looking. He stands towards the higher end of the range of Mezco 112 collective heights at about 6 3/4 inches. Here he is next to Conan the Barbarian with some Kylab parts and the Atticus Doom figure. Two fantastic, awesome figures right there. Here he is next to a couple Rumble Society figures. On the left is the Hazard Squad Gomez. On the right is the Death Adder. And then here he is next to the Death Dealer on the left and Supreme Knight Batman on the right. And bringing in a couple other lines, on the left is a Mythic Legion's Baron Volagar with a head swap. And on the right is the Mafex Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett. Here's how he looks next to a couple NECA figures, one larger figure with Strongheart on the left and one of the smaller lines, which is the Mirage Turtles Shredder on the right. Two more lines, we have Movie Conan from Super 7 on the left and the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Tiberius on the right. For accessories, starting off with the head sculpts, we essentially have a bunch of looks because you have 3 face pieces, or 3 heads really, they're kind of full heads without hair, and then 4 hair pieces. So I think you get 12 different looks, right? You got 3 per hair, so 12 different looks is a lot, and it's kind of a good way for them to, be able to do a lot of different looks without actually putting 12 heads in the pack. And so the system here is that there's a square peg at the top, and then there's a triangular tab, kind of like where the ears would be, and then there's a slot inside the hair piece where you would put that in. So there, you don't have to worry too much about figuring out exactly where things go. They kind of line themselves up, and then everything looks good that way, and it doesn't like shift around. And so here's one look at the kind of what I call the regular hair, the hair that it came with. And then here we have the more windblown hair without the hat. It's kind of like, I don't know, action hair. And then we have a neutral hair with the hat. And my favorite, which is action hair with the hat. So that looks really cool. And there's a look at that hat with the buckle there. It's nice. You got like, a flatter finish hat, and then you have a shinier belt around it, and then you of course got the metallic buckle. And for weapons, he has a bunch of different blades. So he's got a couple rapiers. So we've got this one here, or I don't know exactly what kind of, there's swashbuckling fencing type swords as far as I'm concerned. And then he's got this one right here, this larger one with this really ornate handle, and then this nice sheath. And they're using a peg system, which I really like, instead of any kind of like chain or hook type system. Tons of little details on this small little straight blade or dagger right here. You can look at the handle, and then he's got a curved one as well over here, again with a sheath with pegs for attaching it to the straps and belt and stuff on him. And then he has 2 more. He's got 2 of these very small, almost like throwing knives, that are in his boots, and those slide right in for easy storage. And he's got the other one on the other side there. He's got 2 flintlock pistols, or I believe they're flintlock pistols, but super ornate again. A lot of detail on these things. And then it's got this holster piece that has these pegs right here that you can use to peg on to the belt. And you can just see like holes in the belt right there. And you could pop that right in, and then that'll sit on the belt there, just like this. And then one thing I noticed as I was messing around with it is this pistol, and I haven't figured out if the other one does the same thing, but this pistol's actually 2 pieces. I thought I had broken it, but this comes apart. Maybe it's supposed to be glued there, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, not too bad. I mean, you can have him like disassembling his pistol there. And yeah, this other one doesn't appear to be 2 parts. I think this is just 1 piece. And one final detail that they have with the pistols is that they have some bullet effects. So you've got this one right here for this pistol. Looks pretty cool. And then you have the double barrel one, but I gotta say, I don't even want to stick that in there because it is so tight. I might want to try to heat it up, but I may not even mess around with that. I'm afraid of breaking that because it is so freaking tight. Maybe use some oil or something. But yeah, that makes me very nervous trying to put that in. Oof, I'm like getting there, but yeah, it makes me nervous. And then it comes with the Staff of Solomon. Very nicely sculpted, very cool details on that staff. Probably my favorite accessory in this set is the torch. And the torch actually has 2 separate flame pieces. So you have one just going straight up, and then you have the other one like he's walking or it's going in the wind. But I love this piece right here. This is a nice thing to have with a lot of sword and sorcery type figures like I do. For hands, he comes with a pair of gripping hands, and then he's got a pair of fists. He's got a pair of trigger gripping hands, like gun gripping hands. And then this is a mixed pair. He's got a pointing finger and a larger grip for the staff. And then finally, he's got a pair of like gesturing, clawing type hands. One thing to note is that the jacket is removable, but you do have to remove the forearms, and they're a lot easier to remove than a typical Mezco figure. They just pop right off. So they are made to be popped off and removed, and then you can pull the jacket off. So there he is with the jacket off, and here's how he looks without it. So he's got these kind of pleated sleeves over here, and I'll take the vest off and all this other stuff as well, and then we'll get into the articulation. But that's how he looks sort of in his regular no jacket mode right there. So pretty cool. A lot of looks that you can do with this figure. And for the other stuff, the belt just simply pegs on like this. Very easy to remove. And then you have a Velcro piece in the sash around his waist here. And then this is Velcro as well, so very easy to remove this. And then having removed his bandolier, you get a look at that. Lots of spots for putting stuff on there. And you could go, I guess you go over the left side or the right side because it's got peg holes on both sides. But yeah, so that's a pretty good versatile piece for storage. There's also some nice little details on the vest over here, over on the shoulders there, that I didn't notice at first because of the jacket. And here he is with all this stuff off, and he looks pretty good. Like, that's a pretty cool looking buck. I don't know if it's a Gomez body or what body this is, but it looks pretty good. And look at the details on that shirt. It's like a dress shirt right there. It's got some pleats. It's got those laces right there. So for articulation at the neck, you have a double neck. So at the base of the neck and at the top of the neck, you have articulation. Hair's definitely going to get in the way of things, but a pretty good range of motion over here in the neck area. Going outward, the shoulders can swing up really high, and then they can come up forward in that rotation. There's a little bit of movement there, but I don't know that there's really any functional butterfly joint. So maybe this is not a Gomez, because I think Gomez figures have a little more action in the shoulders there. And then you have a twist at the bicep, and then you have a double jointed elbow that can come all the way up here. There is a twist at the forearm, and the wrist has that kind of split ball system that all the Mezco figures have. Ball joint at the top of the torso, really nice movement up in there. And then you also have a ball joint at the waist, so he can, crunch way forward and way back. Just a lot of great movement. Again, can be limited with all the gear on there. Legs can kick this far forward. I feel like that's fairly limited. I wish they could kind of come further out that way, and they can go back really not very far. There's a twist at the top of the thigh. He can go out into the splits about to here. Double jointed knees. There's a twist below the knee, but it's not very functional. And then some pretty good motion in the ankles here. So you can kind of rock it side to side, bend it forward and back, and get a good amount of movement there. And you can twist them as well. So overall, I think this is a solid release. I was a little let down by Death Dealer. I didn't like the fact that the neck didn't move, and there were some things kind of, thick capes and stuff that just kind of took that figure down for me after the high of Conan. But this is back up. Like, this brings me back up in terms of like Mezco, sword and sorcery type action figures. This thing rocks. I highly recommend it. And until next time, may the force be with you.